Recognize Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dejoy, I have written to the Postal Service many times in recent years about issues in the District of Columbia, including mail being stolen, burned, or otherwise destroyed, lost, or not delivered. Recently, I asked that the Postal Service hold a community meeting with me and my constituents in Ward 5. The Postal Service waited for weeks before responding and eventually told my office it was in the so-called black period before the election and could not hold a community meeting with an elected official, even though my request was placed weeks before the blackout period started. I then requested that the Postal Service contact the relevant stakeholders to hold the meeting without me during the blackout period. This never happened. My office has contacted the Postal Service since the end of the blackout period and still has not received a substantive response about this meeting request. So Postmaster Dejoy, will you direct the Postal Service to work with my office and hold this meeting as soon as possible?
I will immediately get into it, and most likely that will be the outcome. I need to understand what the circumstances is, but we need to do a. This is an organization that has a lot of complaints against it, and its people get somewhat averse to extensive communication, which is something that we're trying to change here. But we have begun going out with different congressional and state and local people and trying to amass a communication process that not only resolves problems, but also teaches the people that we're engaging with the problems and reasons as to why why we're doing things, and hopefully build some equity and understanding of the problems that we face. Despite the accusations, we do a tremendous amount of communication. Often, we're not clear enough in our communication, or people don't like the answers to what we communicate. But we will engage and embrace that, and I will personally look into your situation and get back to you in a couple of days.
Well, Mr. Dejoy and Ms. Hull, as you know, mail theft has exploded in recent years. Between 2019 and 2022, there was an 87% increase in reports of mail theft from mailboxes and a 543% increase in letter carrier robberies. An audit issued this year by the Government Accountability Office stated that the number of U.S. Postal Inspected Service investigations into serious crimes nearly doubled between 2019 and 2023, an increase driven by robberies of letter carriers. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the GAO report titled U.S. Postal Service Inspection Service should document its law enforcement workforce decision-making process.
Without objection, to ordered.
Thank you. In the District of Columbia, my constituents are continuing to experience mail theft, including check fraud. Postal theft endangers our hardworking postal employees and our constituents who have had money stolen and are missing important packages and mail. Ms. Hull, what is the effect of the rise in mail theft on letter carriers' safety, health, and well-being?
Yeah, I think the mail theft explosion is, as you said, very concerning and definitely has an impact and raises issues with letter carrier safety. We also, similar to GAO, I think before the GAO report that you mentioned, we issued a report on the Postal Service's response to mail theft and are continuing to do local visits. We've done Queens, New York, we did Chicago, we've done San Francisco. Washington, D.C. may be a place where we go also to look at what the Postal Service is doing to address mail theft.
I have introduced a bill to require the U.S. Postal Service to install security cameras at each postal facility to protect USPS employees, customers, and property. The Postal Service retains its own law enforcement body, the U.S. Postal Inspector Service, that is tasked with investigating and preventing postal crime. For more than 50 years, postal police officers have been responsible for protecting postal employees, customers, and property. The Postal Service employs approximately 450 uniformed officers around the country. These officers defend the Postal Service mission around the clock, 7 days a week. It is more important now than ever that the Postal Service retain the ability to adequately investigate postal crime. All right.
Okay,
However,
go ahead.
However, in 2020, soon after Mr. Dejoy became Postal General, the Postal Service, and here I'm quoting, declared that postal police officers should no longer be assigned to investigate or prevent mail theft or protection of letter carriers, end quote, except in cases when the theft or violation occurs directly on Postal Service premises. I have co-led on legislation to reverse this directive, Ms. Hull. How does this?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, it's 2.5 minutes over, but we can submit that question about the police officer to the Inspector General, if that's okay. Is that okay? Okay. All